Hello, I'm Wim and I'm happy to take you through a demo of some of the Microsoft Public Cloud services, Office 365 and Windows Azure. If you already have used Azure and are consuming SQL Azure data in SharePoint or have already set up the Microsoft Office 365 subscription and connected that to your mobile phone, I don't think this demo is for you. But for all the others, I hope this demo is helpful in better understanding the Microsoft Cloud services. Now imagine I have a business, a new business, and I just acquired a new Windows 8.1 tablet. I have no email yet and I have no Microsoft Office on that tablet. Let's have a look how I can set up a new Office 365 trial account and send my first email a few minutes thereafter.
So this is a brand new Windows 8.1 tablet and I have no Microsoft Office, no email on it. So for that, let's take a trial of Office 365. Let's see if that can help me. We're going to the office.com website. That's a good starting point to set up an Office 365 trial. The first thing you notice here is that we are positioned on the United States. We can change that. Normally, a PC will show always the right country. If not, we take English International. I want to discover more for sure. I'm an enterprise, so let's see what my options are. Let's go for the enterprise version, learn more, and yes, I have a button. I can start a trial now. So let's click try now and set up a trial account. Now, the next thing to do is to select a country. You see there's all the countries where Office 365 is available are there. Since my business sits in Belgium, as an example, I will select Belgium as a country. And then there are only a few things to enter. Name, of course, last name, an email address, actually a backup email address, not the email address of Office 365 because I don't have it yet, of course. My address, I have to enter the zip code and of course a city name, the beautiful city of Ghent, my phone number, the name of my organization. Let's say it's called Wim's Business, and actually that will be used automatically as a temporary domain name, wimsbusiness.onmicrosoft.com. And I want to create a user account, Wim. And later we will, of course, replace the temporary domain name by my own company domain name, but that's a different process. Selecting a password, and I have to enter a phone number to which the system will send me a text message to verify that I'm real. So let's wait for a second until that code arrives on my mobile phone. It will almost be there. Yes, I received it. So let's enter that code here. Here we go. Done. I do not want to receive email nor phone calls. And that's it. That's all it takes to set up an Office 365 full working account. Next thing is that it will show me the portal, the Office 365 portal. It will have logged me in already. We see here that lots of the services still needs to be provisioned. That takes a couple of minutes maybe. And it indicates as well that my trial will expire in about 29 days. So it now takes probably a minute and then I'm good to go. So after the setup of Office 365, let's go to the management portal. In order to do that, we use the address portal.microsoftonline.com and we log in with the account name that we created while setting up the Office 365 account. So that's wim@wimsbusiness.onmicrosoft.com, still a temporary domain name. We'll be able to connect this account with a real business domain name later in the process. So let me enter my password as well. And he can keep me signed in. That's easy. And let's sign in. And yes, the browser can store my password. Okay, so I'm on the management portal here. And let's go quickly to the Outlook part. So to the Outlook web app to actually send and receive emails. So only a few minutes after setting up the Office trial account, I can do that. The first time I have to select my language, so Outlook web app displays in a correct language, but we'll leave that on English for now. And I have to select the proper time zone I work in, which is in my case UTC +1 from Brussels. Okay, that's stored. He will not ask me that again in the future. And here we have the Outlook web app connected to my Office 365 account, to the Wim account. There is another way to go to the Office, to the Outlook web app through a direct link, which is outlook.office365.com. If you don't need the management portal, you can always go directly to the Outlook web app. Every user, every account in the Office 365 environment can do that. And here we are, directly into the Outlook web app. And of course, if needed, he will ask me my credentials. Let's send a first email here to my other private email address as a test. Subject hello, and then type world there, send, and I have sent my first email with my Office 365 account minutes after setting up the trial account. As a user, I have some settings myself as well. These are not management settings for the environment of Office 365, but only personal settings like my address and my telephone number in my profile. I can also install software from here, but we'll cover that partly later in the demo. For now, let's go to the management portal again to manage the Office 365 environment as an administrator. So here we're back. And well, the first thing you want to do as an administrator is to create additional accounts, additional users. So for that, we'll go to users and groups, and I can quickly or simply click on the plus sign and add a second user in this Office 365 environment, which is Tanya. No, correct. Let's type correctly like this, and her family name. Oops. Yes, we are almost there. Here we are. And display name is okay for me, and the username is Tanya with the same temporary domain name attached to it. We'll not make an administrator of her, so a regular user, and she works out of Belgium as well. Okay, and we'll assign all the products inside Office 365 plan to her account. Okay, the email address, the temporary password will be sent to this user, and then we'll create the user now. The Office 365 portal will show me the first password, the temporary password, but when Tanya logs in the first time, she will then have to select an official real password. Other thing I can do from here is adding a real domain name to my account, the domain name of my company, for example. It's a three-step process. We'll not go into this. It requires some involvement of the registrar of your domain name, but that's in the domain section. That's where you do that. What I like about Office 365 Management Portal is the reporting I have available as an administrator. For that, you go to reports, and there's all kind of reports that you can generate, like the number of received email, active mailboxes, the number of sent email, and so forth and so forth. Of course, when we go to this one, since this is a new Office 365 account, not a lot of mail has been sent yet, so obviously the charts are empty for now. But for sure, this is a very interesting reporting section for administrators of an Office 365 account. There's other interesting stuff like reports on received spam and sent spam, all very useful. Now for this part of the demo, last thing I want to show you is a little bit on the administration of the Exchange Online part of Office 365. So let's go to the administration of Exchange. Here we go, and you'll see that for both users of Office 365, obviously a mailbox has been created. And what we can do here is to, for example, add to my mailbox aliases, additional email addresses. So imagine that in my organization, I want also receive email for the address info at, then I can just add that email address to my own account here. So let's type it here, info at, and then of course, wimsbusiness.onmicrosoft.com, or the real domain name when it is set up, when it is activated. And from now on, I will receive email for the info at email address as well. So that's one thing I can do here. Another very important part of the Exchange Online administration is what we call compliance management, where besides things like e-discovery, to find emails on specific topics for legal reasons, we can also set up what we call data loss prevention to avoid that sensitive data is sent out of the company. For example, a mail with a credit card number or with a bank account number, you can prevent that users accidentally send such emails. For that, there is a lots of templates already available in this environment that you can choose of, but a developer can create an additional template specific for your country, for your company, for specific reasons, and can upload these templates into the DLP environment as well, and as such protect the company for accidental data loss.
So basically, my Office 365 account is ready to be used. We already have sent our first email and we'll connect it with the mobile phone and Outlook later on in the demo. But Office 365 is much more than just email. For example, there is a whole SharePoint environment inside Office 365, and let's have a closer look at that.
So I'm on the management portal again, and let's go to SkyDrive, because I have a project and I want to share some documents with other people outside the organization. So in my SkyDrive environment, I will create a folder, give it a name, special project, save it, go inside the folder, let's create the first document. I don't have Microsoft Office on my tablet here, so I will create a document with the Office web app, with the Word web app. This app will be started. I first have to give a name to my document, so let's say this is a project document, and now the Word web app will start inside the browser from the Office 365 account, and I can start typing text in a Word environment without having Microsoft Office on my PC. So let's type some words like this, and I don't have to save. I just have to exit the Word web app. There you go. And the document will be visible in my SkyDrive folder. So let's go back one up to the documents level of this SkyDrive, and let's now share the folder with people outside. I can just type in an email address of somebody, so I will share this with this person, like that, okay. Here we are, that's his email address. And then I can type some text, so because there will be an invitation sent by email to this person, an invitation to go into this folder of my SkyDrive and to look at documents, so please use this location to work on the project. Okay, that's it. Good. In the options I can decide whether I will want to send this invitation email or not. I can first select if the person can only view or can edit as well. And then let's click on share, and the invitation will be sent out, and that person will be allowed to work and to see my documents. Okay, there are other sites. There's not only SkyDrive, there is a public site, a public website, and a team site. Let's go to the public website for a second, which is built-in functionality of Office 365 as well. This is how it looks standardly. So let's change the look and feel of this website because I want something else. And then he proposes kind of templates, and of course you can play with it and create your own look and feel, but I kind of like this one, and I can even try it out before my public website will be adapted to this look and feel. So let's first have a look if I like it. Okay, so here is how it looks. Good, that's good for me. So yes, keep this. And now the public website is changed into that look and feel. I can edit, I can add pages. I can edit this page of my website very simply with built-in editor tools inside Office 365, which allows me to kind of customize the content of my website. Very easy way to create public websites.
The SkyDrive and the public website are only two examples of what we can do with the SharePoint environment inside Office 365. But we can also use team sites. And we can even extend those team sites with extra apps that we can buy from the marketplace, or as a developer, we can develop our own apps to extend the functionality of the SharePoint team site. Let's have a look.
So let's go to the sites part of Office 365 again, not to the public site, but to the team site, which is a SharePoint site, where you can have all kind of applications like document libraries and wikis and task lists and forms and announcements, all the standard stuff that you're used from SharePoint. But we can go to the SharePoint administration and actually buy apps online from a marketplace to enrich the SharePoint environment with much more possibilities. So let's purchase an app here, and you see here is a full list of all kind of applications for SharePoint. And if that's not enough, we can develop our own app, or we can buy or download an app from some provider online. So I kind of like this one, which is a corporate news app. Let's download it from a website and save it on the desktop for now. Go back to the administration of SharePoint inside Office 365, and we are going to upload this app into the app catalog to make it available for all SharePoint sites that might be created or are present in this Office 365 environment. So it's a new app. Let's browse to the file we have downloaded before. There you go. And then upload the app into our Office 365 SharePoint environment. I can add some comments so people who want to use this app know what this is about. I will not enter it for now and just click OK, and the app will be uploaded into Office 365 SharePoint environment. Here it is. So let's now go back to the team site here and add the app that is now available to this SharePoint site. So add an app, and you'll see that in the list of all available apps, Corporate News app is one of them. So we click on it, we trust it, and it is now added to this SharePoint. Meaning that here you go on the top, the Corporate News app is now available in this SharePoint site. Let's go to the home page of the SharePoint site and add it there somewhere. So we will edit this page and then go to the insert ribbon and click on add app part. So we will add the news part to this page. It's now being done and it will be displayed there. It takes only a few seconds before the news app part is available. Here you go. Let's save the page to publish it. It's now available for all team members. And it works pretty nice. I mean, I can click on an event and see the picture and so forth. There's a corporate news app administration area where I can actually add news items. So let's do that. Let's add a new item. Let's call it free drinks, which will be available until January the 4th. And okay, free drinks for Microsoft employees. And okay, I copied an hyperlink to an image somewhere, to a nice image. And if people click on it, they will be referred to the Microsoft website, and the language of this news item is English. Okay, so I just added one news item. And if we go back to the home page, to the team site, to that page, you'll see that this great news item is added to the news app. Free drinks with a picture. So just as an example on how to add any app to the SharePoint environment.
Only a few minutes after we have done the setup of the Office 365 account, we could already send our first email by using the Outlook web app. But it is of course much nicer if we can manage our email and our agenda with the full rich Outlook desktop client. But as I told you in the beginning, we do not have MS Office installed on this tablet. So let's now have a look how we can install from within Office 365 the full rich desktop Microsoft Office application set on this PC. and connect it with Office 365 for email.
So let's log off as the administrator from this portal and let's log in Office 365 as a normal user, the other user I have been added to Office 365 earlier. So let's log in with another user account and let's take Tanya at wimsbusiness.onmicrosoft.com is the login name. She's not an administrator, but a normal Office 365 end user. Entering our password, and we arrive on her port, which is not an administrator portal. We can click on PC and Mac software, and from there we can actually install Microsoft Office full rich applications on this tablet, on this PC, for the first time. The way this happens is through kind of streaming technology, so it only takes a couple of minutes, and then you can already start working with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. So let's give it a few more seconds. It's almost there, and Microsoft Office is actually kind of installed on this PC, on this tablet. So let's click next.
Welcome to your modern office.
Okay, that's that. You see here that Office is still installing in the background, only 5% actually sits on this PC, but we can already start using it. Let's see if Word is already there. It is. So let's start Microsoft Word. Still streams a little bit of information in order to do that, but only takes really a short amount of time. Let's give it a few more seconds, and Microsoft Word is actually starting on this tablet. So from the moment of time we started the trial and we can actually use Word, Excel and all the other applications, it's only a few minutes. So here you go, we can type in Word, we will not save this document, and let's have a look if Outlook is already available to set up email through the rich Outlook client. It is, so let's start Outlook. It's still streaming. Once everything is fully installed, you don't see this streaming part anymore, of course. Outlook starts, and because of course we did not set it up yet on this machine, we have to start by entering our data. So I'm Tanya, well in this case, this is my email address, this is the Office 365 password, and with that Outlook will actually look in the cloud if the email account exists. He has found it, and Outlook is immediately setting up the account or the email account. And after a few more seconds, we can start using Microsoft Outlook fully on this machine in rich client mode.
You just have witnessed that connecting Outlook to the Office 365 services for mail and calendaring is a very easy, straightforward process. But connecting a smartphone like Windows Phone to Office 365 is even more simpler. Let's have a look.
So this is a Windows Phone. Let's go to the settings. Here we are. Okay. And let's set up an email account. So add an account. It's an Outlook.com or Exchange account. I can then just enter my, or Tanya's in this case, account settings, which is her email address, Wim's Business dot on Microsoft.com, and then her password, which I will not show you. Signing in, he will look up in the cloud in Office 365 the actual settings. They found it, and then I can optionally install Link if I would want to, but let's skip that for a second and then let's go to the email client on the Windows 8 phone. There you go. And actually it's already downloading all the email contacts. But since this is a fresh new trial, there's no email, of course. So in the meantime, let's try to send an email outside. So let's send an email to Wim, which is the other person account in the Office 365 environment. Well, Wim is in off, he will find it, and then type hello or something. So only minutes after setting up the trial account, I am sending my first email with my Windows phone already. And in the meantime, I have sent an email from my other PC to Tanya, and you see it's already coming in, and I can open it and read it. Setting up email with Office 365 on a Windows phone is pretty easy. We also have access to the SharePoint of the Office 365 account. So here I can go to Wim's Business Team site, the same team site as we have seen before. I already uploaded the document to another PC. Here it is. I can open the document from within the team site and edit it with the Word application on my mobile phone. Let's, for example, do some edits here. I'm a bit more ambitious for 2016. I think I need a little bit more revenue there, like that. So just by setting up the account like we did on this mobile phone, we not only have access to email and calendaring, but also to the full SharePoint environment of the Office 365 account.
Let's return to the PC for a moment. And we already have seen that Office 365 is much more than just email. There's another service, part of Office 365, which is great to use, and that's Microsoft Lync. And without any additional setup to be done on this tablet, Microsoft Lync is already fully operational. And let's just show that to you with a small demo.
So I'm still logged in as Tanya, and just to show you that Lync is immediately usable after installing Microsoft Office, and I did not do anything else than that. Let's go to calendar here in Outlook, and let's plan a new meeting for 12:30. Here we go. Let's call this meeting project discussion. And you see that the Lync meeting button is already there, completely integrated and immediately usable from Office 365 minutes after the installation. So I can actually join the meeting right now to see if it's working. And Lync is started and the meeting will be active in a second. Yes, we'll use Lync for audio and video. And there we are. And Wim can actually join in a second, which I will do from another PC here. So using Lync for internet meetings, for instant messaging with audio video, is very simple to organize with Office 365, and it requires almost no special setup. And here we are sharing a whiteboard right now to make the meeting a bit more useful.
It's time to show you the other Microsoft Public Cloud Service, Windows Azure. And before I go into a little bit more details why a Windows Azure account might make sense and how we can integrate that with, for example, Microsoft Office 365, let's go online and let's set up an Azure account to start with.
So let's set up an Azure account, and for that we go to the site microsoft.com/Azure. There we go. And let's set up a trial account for now. And indeed on that site you see on the top right corner free trial. So let's click there. And let's click on try it now. And the next thing the system will ask me is to log in with my Microsoft account. I have one. If you don't, then you have to, of course, create a Microsoft account. But let's log in with this one here. And the Azure environment will then be linked to that account. So let's sign in, and actually we're already in Azure now. And The system will still ask me to complete some of the data in a second, like my name, that's all okay, and I have to, of course, I have to verify that I'm real, so entering my mobile phone number here, and then the system will send my mobile phone number a text code that I receive in a second on my phone. Yes, I have it, and I have to enter it here so they can verify that. Okay, done. I have to agree with the agreement, and of course next step is then credit card details, which I will now skip for this demo, and I can already go to the Azure portal. So the Azure environment is already set up. One of the things we can do in Azure is create a virtual server. So let's do that. Let's create a virtual machine. Let's use the quick create wizard. So we're entering a name for the server, WIM's server. Okay. And then we can select a purpose or an operating system. Now, not only Microsoft ones. We can create an Oracle Linux or an Ubuntu or a SUSE, but in this case we'll take a Windows server with SQL, and we assign 3.5 gigabytes of memory to the server. We can always change that later. I have to create an account to log in to the server, and I have, of course, to select or choose a password. That's done. Create virtual machine. It takes a minute or so to provision that, a little bit less. And once provisioned, we're good to go. So let's wait a few seconds. Okay, done. Now before I can actually use it, I have to check the endpoint. So for that, I click on the service name, go to endpoints, and I have to write down, I have to remember that number here, 57753. It's important if I want to connect to a remote desktop to that server. So let's try that. Let's start remote desktop. Let's enter the server's address, which is wimserver.cloudapp.com, and then column, and then that number, which is an IP port number. So 57753. That should be it, and connect. Of course, I have to log in with that account I created, Wim and password. Good, okay, yes, and we are almost there. So now the system is logging in into a virtual server we created in less than a few minutes on a totally, completely new Azure trial account. Now the server has still some setup to do. We're almost in. There we are. And actually, let's check the computer properties to see what kind of server we've got. So let's go to computer, okay, and retrieve the properties. And here you'll see indeed that we have a Windows Server 2012 with 3.5 gigabytes, which is exactly what we have chosen when we did the setup. If you want to change that, it's very easy. We just return to the Azure portal and we go to the configuration of the server, and we can very easily select another size if we want to. With that, our Azure account is completely ready to be used.
Let's now look at another service within Windows Azure, the database service, SQL Azure. Imagine I'm a business and I want to set up a customer database, and I want to make sure that this database can be consumed by different devices and by different people. Let's start with the beginning, and let's start to set up a very simple database on my own PC.
So imagine I'm a small business and I want to set up a customer database. For that, one of the applications that I might use is Microsoft Access as part of Microsoft Office. So let's see, okay, it's installed. So let's start that application and let's create a new blank database. Let's give it a name. We'll save it on the desktop for now. And there we go. And let's give it the name customer or customers. Good. And let's create a database. So now we have an empty database, so I need to create the database, or a table in the database. By going into the design view, let's call this table customer table. And then what are the different fields or things I want to keep in that table? Well, every customer will have an idea, a customer name, yeah, short text, that's quite okay. We'll have a address, which is also a short text. We'll have a zip code, short text is fine, a city name, email address, and let's say a commentary field, which could be a longer text. So let's give that data type long text. That's it, good. So let's save the table. The table is done. We have to create a form now, so end users can actually enter data. Yeah, that form looks okay to me. So let's save the form and let's save it with the name customer form. Done. So now I can use the form and actually start entering data into my database. So let's enter the first customer, and he lives there, and he has an email address, well, whatever, and we might have to enter some comments. So that is good, but the problem now is that this customer table sits on my PC. I cannot share it easily. I can maybe email it around, but then somebody else will have a duplicate of his database. So not the perfect way to do things.
So it would make a lot of sense to create this customer database in the cloud, so it can be consumed by different applications on different devices. Let's see how that works in the Windows Azure environment.
So let's go to the Azure portal, the management portal, manage.windowsazure.com, and one of the services is there, SQL databases. First thing we need to do is to create a database server, and for that I need to create a login name and a password, confirmation of the password, and I have to say where this server should reside, and I select Western Europe. So this is actually, now Azure is now provisioning this new server. He's ready to be used now. And once I have my server with this server name, I can start creating a database. So now let's create a database. Let's call this database customer. That's it. And I will take the defaults there and I will create that database on my newly created database server. So Azure is now actually provisioning a database, which is now ready to be used. So I can go into the database and then I can manage the database by clicking on Manage. I will have to log in with the account I just created when I created the database server. And now I'm positioned into the empty database. And what I can do, of course, is now create tables. So we need to create a customer table, so let's do that. A new table, and let's name that table customer table. It has an ID, that's fine with me, and then let's it's basically I have to enter the same fields I did in the beginning in Microsoft Access. So every customer has a name, an address, which is probably also, well, maybe 50 character positions will be enough for now. Let's add a column, so we need a zip code. Zip code, yes. Also a character field. So then we take this kind of type, and maybe not 50 positions is too much, so 10 will be enough. And I need a city name. So this is it. Also a character field or a string, so 50 will be okay for now. And I need an email address in my customer table, which is also a character field or a string. There we go. And last but not least, I needed a commentary field, which is a little bit longer, so let's make it a text field, which is a limited number of characters. Okay, so that's my table. We can save it. Maybe correctly select that, and I'm ready, can be saved. So let's do that. And once saved, I can start using this table with every application that can connect with this database. So let's now go back to Microsoft Access and link the Access database to Azure. For that I go to External Data and open ODBC Databases. I want to link my data to an external source. So let's create a connector with Azure, with SQL Server on Azure, and take the ODBC driver for that. I have to give this connection a name, Azure Data, for example. That's fine. Then I have to enter a description, which is anything. But then I need to enter the address of the Azure server. If we go to the Azure portal, we can write down the name or copy the name and the address of the database there and paste it in here. Next, I need to enter my credentials, which is the account of my SQL database on Azure. That's done. And then I can already select one of the database. I only have one, which is the customer database, so let's select it. And then I'm pretty much done with creation of the connection between Access and Azure. I need to log in one more time into the SQL server, and then it will give me a list of all kind of system tables, but one of them is my customer table. So selected it, and now I have a link from Access to the customer table on Azure. I can click on it and I can see the columns, the items I created on Azure. So let's create a form to manage that. So I create a form for this table. Okay, save it and give it a name. So this is my customer table form. And then actually I can use the form to enter data, but this time the data is not entered into a local database on my PC, but the data is entered into the database table in the cloud in the SQL Server database of my Azure account. So I'm typing as we speak. Enter some comments for this person. Okay, that's one. And maybe just to have some data, enter a second one, number 2. And then enter another customer's name with her address. Okay, and a zip code, whatever. City of Munich, not sure this is the correct zip code. An email address. Okay, Hotmail, some comments. Okay, so second customer is almost in. And then just one more. So we have at least 3 customers in our table to play with. So this is Andreas, long road, and a zip code, and a city. Some email. Okay. That's it. And then a comment, something interesting. Okay. That's always good. Good. So we have now at least 3 customers in our table in the cloud. Now to show that this table is now accessible from other applications, for example, let's start Excel. And let's link Excel with the same table in the cloud. For that we go to the Data menu in Excel, and we are going to select other sources from SQL Server. Server name again is that same address we can copy from the Azure portal. I have to enter my username and password, and then basically I need to select the database, which is the customer database, and the table of the database, which is customer table. I'm pretty much done. I can now select where I want the data in a table on the first cell of this sheet, and there is the data I just entered through Access into the SQL Server database in the cloud, and I'm now consuming that in Microsoft Excel.
It's great that this database can be consumed by Excel, by Microsoft Access on my PC, but it would be much better if we would be able to create a cloud service that I can actually run from within a browser. So I can actually enter customer data and also review my customer data from any device as long as I have a browser connected to the internet. For that, we need to create a cloud service, and that's exactly what we can do in the Windows Azure environment. Let's see how that works.
To develop a cloud service, we will use Visual Studio. So let me start Visual Studio. As an administrator, there's a reason for that. It's not important for now. We'll take a new project. We can create all kinds of projects, but the one we want is a Windows Azure Cloud Service, so that's okay. I'll give it a name, Mini CRM. That's fine. Then we have to select in what kind of developer environment we want to develop our website. I'm using ASP.NET. Let's not go into much detail there. And then it will kind of set up an empty template, a development template, in which I can develop web pages. So let's close that one, and we'll add to this project a new web page, which will actually be the page that will connect to the SQL customer database. So add new item. I need to give it a name, but first I need to say or select that this will be a web form with master page. That in most cases that's what we need, and we'll give it a name, start, and we'll add the page to the project. We'll use the mobile master, so the page actually is usable on the mobile phone as well. By clicking on design button here, we can see now how the web page looks right now, which is this. I don't like the title. But in order to change the title, I need to do that on the master page, because that's part of the master page. So let's open the master page, and let's change the title there into mobile, like this, yeah, Mini CRM. And let's close the master page, and now you'll see that the title also changed on our web page that we are developing. Okay, so here in this featured content part, that's where we have to add some code, so we can talk to the customer database, and we'll do that by using a grid view. So we just drag the grid view there, and we go into design mode because it's easier to see. There it is, it's kind of a table, and we need to connect this grid view with our SQL database. That's a connector with the SQL database. I need to give that a name. Let's call it Azure Data. That's okay. And then we need to build the connection now with the Azure database. Remember, bit the same as we did with Access and Excel. We need to enter the address of the database. We need to enter the credentials of the database. There we go. And then we should be able to select the customer database from the list. There it is. That's okay. Good. Then this connection need to have a nice name, so let's call it Azure Data as well, which is now the name of the connector. And then it shows me all the tables. We only have one customer table, and we have to select on which field it needs to be ordered. I want the list always alphabetically ordered on name. Let's now test the query. It seems to work fine. And through the advanced button here, we'll add the necessary SQL queries that allow us in the page to also insert new records, edit records, and delete records. And that's all. I mean, the rest is generated automatically. We'll add to the grid view here the necessary buttons so we can page, edit, sort, delete, and select the data. And it's all generated automatically. And we can already test the result by clicking on the Internet Explorer button there, which will bring us in a test environment to see how it works for now. So this is how it looks. It's a bit basic, but for now it will do. So we can edit this record, we can change the house number here, update this, and the update works. It looks pretty nice. The only thing I'm missing is a button to insert, to add a customer. Let's do that. So for that we'll use a little trick. We will drag a button there. Let me call this button add customer. We have to give this button also a name. An add customer is fine, so change it there as well. And when I double click on the button now, it will open the developer environment so I can enter code, the necessary code to add a record to the SQL database. We'll not go too deep here. Let me just paste in the code. So we need that, and then we need some code to actually add. You see the SQL queries to actually add in data to the database. I need to change this name because our connector was called Azure Data, as you might remember. Yeah, oh, little mistake there. And let's test again what we have. It should now show the same thing, but with an additional button. Yes, so we can click on a button, it will add an empty customer, let's say, and then we can, through the edit button, change the customer name. So we have a new customer in our database sitting in SQL Azure right now. The application looks nice. It's now a matter to publish it in the cloud, because for now it's just running in test. So let's publish this cloud service into our Azure cloud account. Right clicking here, publish to Windows Azure. That's the way to do that. We need to sign in into the Azure environment with the Microsoft account I used to create the trial Azure environment. So let me enter that Azure account. A few words are in Dutch because that's my native language, but I'm sure you understand what I'm doing here. Entering password and connect to the Azure environment. So now it connects to the Azure trial environment. I have to select my subscription. I only have one free trial. So then we have to give a name to the cloud service. I will call it Mini CRM app. That name will be used in the URL to access the cloud service. And then click on publish, and the publication of this cloud service in Azure will now be processed. So here you can, at the bottom, you can see where we are. It takes usually a little bit longer the first time, but done. It's completed. So the cloud service is now active, and we can open a browser window and just enter the address to the service, which is minicrmapp.cloudapp.net, and then of course /start.aspx, which was the name of our page, remember, and that should then bring up this little CRM app ready to be used by everybody who has access to this page.
Since we now have created this cloud service, we can also use it from a smartphone, for example, from a Windows phone. So let's quickly access this web page, this cloud service, from the Windows phone.
So let's test the cloud service on a mobile phone here. Let's go on the mobile phone to the browser and enter the address of the CRM, of the Mini CRM app. So same address as used earlier in the Internet Explorer browser, there it is, and the same cloud service pops up and is totally active and working also on my Windows phone, and by the way on any other phone that has access to the internet.
To make a full circle, remember we started with Office 365, setting up a SharePoint site. We then went into Azure and SQL Azure with a database that we can consume through a cloud service. It would be great to be able to consume the same data from SQL Azure in our SharePoint environment in Office 365. And let's see how that works.
Let's check if the added data to SQL also refreshes in Excel. And yes, the fourth customer is there, and even in Microsoft Access, the data is synchronized and all records showing up. Let's return to the Office 365 environment for a moment, and let's go to the portal of Office 365, because I want to make sure that we can consume the SQL customer data inside a SharePoint site as well. So let's log in with my Office 365 account. As a side remark, when properly set up, you don't have to do that each time, and it's completely integrated, of course, in a single sign-on environment. But this was a test. Let's go to the administration of SharePoint first, because we need to set up a connection between SharePoint and SQL Server on Azure. In order to do that, we use the business connectivity services, and we need to upload kind of a connector that I prepared already, because we would have to go too deep in order to explain that. So the connector is already there, and I will use the connector in the team side to connect to the Azure SQL customer table. So in order to do that, I will add an app, and one of the apps we can add in SharePoint is a external list. There it is. So a list where the data comes from elsewhere. We'll give it a name, customer list, and we select this connector that I prepared to connect to the Azure SQL data. So create that. That's done. So now I have my customer list there, and I can actually go inside the customer list in SharePoint and consume the data here as well. And here you see the 4 customers that we entered previously.
I hope this demo not only showed you how easy it is to set up an Office 365 environment and even an Azure environment, but also showed you how well integrated this platform is, not only from a cloud perspective, but also from a rich application perspective on the desktop. It is this full integration that really gives Microsoft a fantastic competitive advantage. Thanks for listening to my story.